everyone, I am Tacet, and today we're going to be starting up a new series on this channel of the Lorekeeper. This is going to be a series that is basically going over all of the lore in Gems of War. For any of you that weren't aware, there used to be small bits of lore added to every weekly event post, but now it's basically just going to be its own little chapter-based little novella that will be posted every single week, and it's all canon to Gems of War. It'll serve basically to fill the gap of lore that is currently lacking from the game itself, so if you've ever been wondering why there's so little lore in the game, well, this will help to basically fix that. Sirrian, the lead developer of Gems of War, will be writing all of this lore in his spare time, so it won't really be getting in the way of actual development time of the game, which is going to be really nice. Every single chapter is going to be around 2,000 words, and it's going to be broken up over the course of about 3 months to basically conclude to about a 25,000 word novella after about 3 months or so. If you want to read them for yourself, they will be underneath the they will be posted every week on reset day. The link for that will be in the description below. They can be found on the Gems of War official forum underneath the Lorekeeper section if you're going to go search for it there. Also, if you want to look for all my readings of it, the playlist of all my readings of the series is going to be in the top right corner of this video. It'll also be in the description below, and of course here on my YouTube channel of Tacet the Terror. I will also post the reading every Tuesday, the day after the reset. This will give enough time so that you can actually read it yourself if you do actually want to go and read these for yourself. Though, of course, for those of you that don't want to actually read the story, you can simply just listen to the audio I'll be doing here. Yeah, so you guys just have it automatically here, so you don't actually need to read through it. We will have the actual text here, so you can kind of do both simultaneously, or you could just do it while you're playing Gems of War itself. If you have any feedback or changes that you want to see on this new format, feel free to leave them and post them below, as it would be very helpful, as of course all of this is pretty new, and we'll see exactly how it goes, but it should be a lot of fun. Do keep in mind, I will probably mispronounce a lot of stuff, as you guys know. I am very well known for that. Pretty bad at pronouncing things. Definitely not that good of a reader either, and nor that good at actually contrasting the voices of different characters, but we'll see how it goes, and if nothing else, we'll improve over time. But anyways, let's go and get into the first Lorekeeper already of the Three Dragons, Chapter 1, the Prophetess. A fortune teller spins a tale of what you want to happen. A prophet tells you what will happen, whether you like it or not. It's no surprise which one ends up burning on a stake more often. Medina. Medina regarded the tiny daemon trapped in the summoning circle before her. The daemon squinted back at her with something that may have been suspicion. Curiosity, or even constipation. It was difficult to tell whether a creature that had 4 eyes, skin creased like a crusty old bedsheet, and a head shaped like a smashed turnip. Medina sighed. Alright, Cyril, are you going to tell me or not? The daemon tentatively reached out a long moist finger towards the invisible force field, holding it in place. There was a spark. The creature let out a tiny yelp and pulled its hand back. Medina paced around the circle, peering closely at the daemon. Cyril, do you have a problem here? No problem. No, no, no. It finally spoke, shifting nervously from side to side. No? Medina asked. Well, maybe, the daemon offered. And you really should call me by my proper name, you know, Medina. Medina sighed again. I thought we had a deal here. She paused for effect. Catharaxial? The little demon looked pleased at this concession. The recognition of its true name. I'm a lot more important than I used to be, Medina. I spoke with the mother before you summoned me. Medina raised an eyebrow. Daemons were very neurotic about their self-image sometimes. Nevertheless, Catharaxia, we had a deal, you and I. You tell me the weather for the next 7 days, and I provide you with 7 pieces of silver. We still have this deal, yes? Oh, yes! I have a lot more you might be interested in than weather, Medina. The little daemon rubbed his hands together greedily. The mother, she tells me things. What kind of things? Medea tried to sound casual, keeping any curiosity from her voice, judging by the creature's demented, lopsided grin. It hadn't worked. It'll cost you, Medea. How much? My weight in silver. It licked its lips in anticipation. Medea couldn't help but suppress a laugh. That's 100 times what I normally pay you. How do I know this information is worth it? Oh, it's worth it. The daemon leaned forward, grinning. In fact, it's worth a lot more. It's a warning, a prophecy. You know, that your summoning circle compels the truth from me. I can't lie. Medea regarded the creature for a few moments. Divination and prophecy fascinated her. She couldn't pass up this opportunity, but nor could she stop wondering how or why some minor weather daemon had come into possession of something so important. Daemons weren't beyond elaborate trickery, and to get caught up in their games was like walking into a maze with a bucket over your head. It was a tangle she had no intention of falling into. If the mother had told it something, then the mother had wanted her, Medea, to know. Which also meant she could probably bargain it down quite a bit. Medea considered that for a moment, but happy employees were good employees. It probably served her better in the long term if Catharaxiel kept thinking he was important. Besides, if his prices got too high, there were plenty more willing weather daemons out there. Very well, she said, taking a small silver statue of a cat, a nearby shelf, and pushing it carefully into the circle. Here is your payment, Catharaxiel. Tell me what you know, please. The daemon practically danced with glee and let out a delighted little shriek. The mother says that another blight is coming, and only the 3 dragons may stop it. The dragon that was, the dragon that is, and the dragon that will be. And, Medea asked, scolding, humid all week, rain on Moon Day afternoon, and a bit blowy on Frizz Day morning. And with that, Catharaxiel vanished. Medea gazed out the window of her tower at the shattered land of Carcharoth, thinking of this prophecy she'd received. If it came from the mother, it was likely true as much as the prophecy was true. But what did it mean? And what could she do about it? That was the trouble with prophecies. If they were too literal, their outcomes were easy to change, so they were wrapped in riddles, distractions, and half-truths. They were the perfect puzzle, and Medea loved a good puzzle. Off in the distance, she could make out two more towers. One belonged to Mad Thorius, a heretic from Whitehelm, who'd killed the tower's previous owner, Prospero. She'd liked Prospero, but he was relatively kind for a warlock. He once gave her candy when she was younger, and had only tried to kill her twice. The other tower belonged to Draxius, a grumpy old Kiteri lich, whom nobody had seen in 10 years. He'd been in that tower for as long as anyone could remember. He never needed to eat, so he could often go decades without being seen. Nobody was crazy enough to try and kill Draxius, though. The last warlock who came within 100 paces of his tower had been turned inside out twice, which leaves you looking vaguely normal, but with everything jumbled up on the inside. Still quite dead, though. Medea was briefly envious. Life was much easier for warlocks like Draxius and Thorius. It was all about the raw pursuit of power. Carcharoth was home to between 20 and 30 such towers, and the villages that supported them. The number varied from time to time as they were destroyed and raised anew. Each tower was home to many secrets, and with the exception of 2, their owners had claimed them in murderously violent fashion, usually by causing the previous owner to explode into gooey, body-colored confetti as part of a magical duel. The first exception was Veers Tower. Medea hadn't really known Veer, but she'd heard tell that he was 2 glyphs short of a scroll. Rumor said that one day he'd gone wandering off claiming he could smell colors. Dealing with elder daemons could do that to a person. A dark elf had since moved in and had spruced up the place in end of the world kind of way. The second exception was the Medea's Tower. She'd inherited it from her father, the warlock Altar. Like most mages in Karkaroth, Altar had spent his life searching for secrets and power. This land was ancient, after all, and many secrets were buried beneath its broken layers of rock. But Altar had lived to a ripe old age, bequeathing the tower to his daughter. Medea's mother had died in childbirth, so now, with her father gone, it was just her. Medea's father had trained her well, though. She was the better of most any warlock in Karkaroth. Far from the obsession with power, though, Medea had other interests. She was more intrigued by the spaghettified tangle of prophecy and divination. Hence her current dilemma. What to do about the prophecy? A new blight? The last blight had been centuries ago, when the Inferno King had broken through far to the southeast. Fortunately, the orcs had stopped him, though their cities had been shattered in the process. Could she provide a warning? No. It was useless to know that there would be a blight if she didn't know where. The world was a big place. Medea toyed with the idea of summoning another daemon to ask some more questions, but if the mother had wished more known, she would have passed it on through that little miscreant weather demon. That avenue would be closed to her. Perhaps the 3 dragons were the key. One that was, one that is, and one that yet will be. There were probably a few thousand dragons scattered over Crystara, but she doubted the prophecy was literally talking about 3 dragons. Perhaps she could weave a spell to find them. She set off downstairs, an idea taking shape. Medea reached the dark basement of her tower and softly called, "Bubbles?" It was silent for a moment. Then there was a gurgling, slurping noise, like 2 adolescent sea trolls inquisitively making out, but about 20 times louder. Medea gently opened her hand, and a small purple flame flickered to life. There, not 12 inches from her face, was a wall of viscous, jelly-like ooze. The flame lit up. Things suspended inside the wall, bones, coins, a fork, a particularly fine amethyst, half a cat, and a goblin's left foot were all visible. More shapes could be seen, but perhaps, fortunately, the light did not penetrate far enough to make them recognizable. Good girl, Bubbles. Medea cooed, reaching out a hand to gently touch the jelly-like surface. It quivered in response, and a tiny tremor of pleasure rippled up its surface. Karkaroth could be a strange place. In most civilized lands, children kept dogs, cats, and birds as pets. Alatar, the warlock, however, had given his daughter a gelatinous cube when she was 7 years old, a creature made of a clear jelly-like substance that dissolved anything it came in contact with. She had promptly named it Bubbles and watched as it grew from the size of a small bucket to something that filled the entire tower basement. Sages believe that the jellies and oozes in Karkaroth had no real sentience, no brains, no feelings, only hunger. But there was an undeniable bond between Medea and her strange pet. From a practical point of view, it made remarkable sense. Not only was Bubbles the ideal location to store things safely until it digested anything organic, but it got to snack on any intruder stupid enough to enter through the basement. I need to find the dragonette bones, girl, Medea purred softly. Do you know where they are? The gelatinous cube rippled again and slurped in a pleasurant fashion as Medea slowly pushed her arm inside. Almost miraculously, she came out holding some bones, the exact ones she'd been seeking. Good girl, Bubbles. She cooed once more, and her pet happily slid back into the darkness with a satisfying squelch. By the time the sun came up over the broken mountains, Medea had finished her spell. The dragonette bones had been ground to a fine paste and added to some ink. 3 letters had been written with that ink, 1 to each of the dragons. 3 quasits had been summoned, bribed with a piece of silver each to find a letter's owner and deliver it. Medea watched the quasits leave. 2 headed west, the other turned east. Now, all she had to do was wait until next week, until the next story is posted. Anyways, that concludes the very first story out of the many chapters, so basically 11 more chapters approximately, of this storyline of the 3 dragons. So yeah, if you guys have any other feedback that you want to leave about this, feel free to do so. Would love to hear it, what you guys think about this and everything. The playlist and everything will be on screen, as well as subscribe and all that good stuff. Leave a like, you know, the normal stuffs. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll be back next Tuesday with Chapter 2. Goodbye, everyone!